Well,
Okay.
yeah, first up we have Royce presenting on how motorized recreation impacts water quality, preliminary data, and hypotheses.
Yeah. So thank you all for being here. My name is Royce Hinojosa, and I'm excited to be able to present with you what I've been doing over the past 8 months and the first half of a study where I am evaluating how motorized recreation impacts water quality. And so, a little bit about me is that I'm a junior at Bayfield High School. I've lived in Bayfield for 17 years, and my passions for the environment really began my freshman year of high school when I got the opportunity to kind of watch teenage environmentalists work on a national level. And actually, that's what I wanted to start working towards, and so that's why I'm here today. And a quick overview of how my ESCI 2020 experience had gone. So in August, I began to formulate my question. I knew I wanted to work here in Bayfield or near it, and I wanted to begin evaluating the state of local tourism. That's what led me to Vicitos because Vicitos is really our only recreational area, and I really want our environmental policy to be proactive rather than reactive. So diving right into my roadmap, my first step was the ESCI kickoff. I formulated my question, got connected with MSI, ESCI, and Grip Tape. My second step was to do some initial research on what's already been done, what questions have been answered, and where I needed to go from there. My third step was to quantify motorized recreation and water quality. And in quantifying water quality, I found that these seven variables worked best, and they were total dissolved solids, hydrocarbons, turbidity, pH, alkalinity, hardness, and conductivity. Each of those kind of deal with a different like level of the chemical components of the water. And then my fourth step was to order the materials and complete missing pieces needed for my data collection. Amanda over at MSI was a huge help with this. And then I finally got to the data collection part. I got to make the trip to Vallecito, and then I was chose Andrews Lake over on Coalbank and Molis as my control variable. And I'm here today to help interpret data, present my findings, and my hypothesis. So moving on. So for the first lake I tested was via Cedo. Down here, you'll see the nitty gritty, the numbers, the data, that sort of thing. But I'm excited to present more explicitly my observations and notes. And so the water temperature that day was around 3.3 degrees Celsius or 38 degrees Fahrenheit, with outside temperature at 6 degrees Celsius or 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And there had been precipitation days prior to the sample collection, and upon collection, there was a visible yellow undertone to the water that could have been because of the not rotation, the mixing of water with the precipitation, but it did go away after 3 days after collection. And Viceta was not frozen over comparatively to Andrews, and there were no boats on the water upon collection time. So over in the top right corner, you can see me performing titrations on my water samples so that I could find the alkalinity and hardness. That was really fun. And then down here, you can see more specifically where it decided to test the water. Here, up here is a specific longitude and latitude, but I had chosen right here for my preliminary data because it was the furthest from water flowing in and water flowing out, and so I felt like it was most true to the lake. And moving on to Andrews, I didn't get any specific data for Andrews. I did collect the water sample, but due to human error, I spilt my sample, which happens in science. And I think it's important to identify that and talk about it because it does happen. But I'm excited to present my observations. And so the water what had been frozen over, I had to get a hole in the ice and extract it. And upon extraction, the water was really clear. And there had been precipitation days prior to collection over in Vallecito. And here you can see specifically where I collected water at in Andrews and a specific longitude and latitude. And so these findings brought me to my hypothesis. And this is a pretty rough skeleton of what my final hypothesis will end up looking like, but I do stand behind the ideas, but I'm still working with the numbers. And so I'm hypothesizing that motorized recreation will cause a decrease in pH by zero point 0.2 with a reflective increase in alkalinity, while simultaneously creating an influx in hydrocarbons. Turbidity will be heightened by 3.0 NTU, as the unregulated chemicals produced by all boat motors take years to decompose and accumulate more easily when one water source flows into another. Now, this has been backed by studies done by the University of California Coastal Resources Advisor and backed by the EPA. And the accumulation of boating-related chemicals will then cause an increase in hardness by 5 milligrams per liter, but will not directly impact conductivity, as conductivity seems to be more notably influenced by temperature, according to the USPBEP, which is a pharmaceutical organization. And so moving on from there, looking forward, I plan to begin my regular collection cycle in May, and then in August, I'll continue that cycle, making observations, collecting data, that sort of thing. And then in October is when my regular collection cycle will come to an end, and I'll begin analyzing my data from October to December. And then in December, I plan on finishing my project up. So thank you for listening to the nitty gritty science part of that. You can reach me on Instagram. This is my @ or my email right here. And then I do have an interactive piece of this real quick. One sec. And so this is basically a chart. And so you'll be able to tell me what has worked with, what you think works with my project, what questions I still need to answer, and where you think there's still room for improvement. So I'll stop the share now and drop that link in the chat so you can visit there. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Royce, that didn't show up in the chat for me. I'm not sure why. Maybe try one more time.
Oh, I think it was because it was a direct message to somebody. Oops.
Okay, no problem.
There we go.
Do you want us to fill this in right now or just keep it for later?
You can take a few minutes to do it right now, or you can do it later, whichever works best. I think, how are we doing on time?
I would say we have 4 minutes for questions.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So I'm willing to answer any more questions at this time.
Royce, I'm sorry, my video is not working. I have a quick question for you. This is Sasha.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your sampling schedule? So like how often and what does that look like?
Yeah, so for preliminary data, I collected once a month for 2 months and then averaged that data. And then going into May through October, I'll be collecting twice a month, and I'll be collecting at 3 different locations and on Vicedo twice a month for those months. But my preliminary cycle was once a month for 2 months. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a question. You talked about like what inspired you to like work on stuff with like environmental issues in the first place, but I guess my question is, what inspired this specific project, like the specifics of it, rather than just like, yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that. And so I really found it most interesting for me to be able to take like that really specific science and be able to apply it to like this really broad concept. And so I do look forward to kind of being able to use the data I collect or use the experience I get from this study to be able to work with local farmers in Bayfield, because Bayfield's big on agriculture, to be able to create regulatory policy that will better the local environment, or again, create proactive policy rather than reactive.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Royce. I think in the interest of time, we should move on to the next person, but really great. I'm going to give you an applause with my reaction tool. I'm really glad to see this project come together. I have been talking with Royce about it for a while, and it's so cool to see it all wrapped up into a nice presentation. Fantastic job. Okay, Liet, sorry, go ahead, you're up. Oh, is Liet still here? Oh yeah, there you are.
Oh, I was muted. My bad about that, you guys. Next up, it looks like we have Nadine Drake on what is the success rate of a wetland restoration?
Alrighty, so thank you all for being here today for me to share my project with you. So first of all, before I dive too deeply in, I just wanted to say this is my first year working with this program, in doing this, and I think it was a great opportunity to just have an opportunity to learn about something that you're interested in, kind of dive more deeply into it. So with that, I wanted to start out with a little activity before I get into my project. So since I'm going to be talking about wetlands and how to restore them and about that, I just wanted you guys to quickly get a piece of paper and draw what you think a wetland looks like, or some key elements to have in a wetland. I'll give you guys about like 2 minutes to do this. Alrighty, so kind of wrapping up with this project. Yeah, and I just wanted to, I'm going to kind of explain what a wetland is and different types of a wetland, and then go into my project about what I found out and what I'm still looking forward to learning. And then at the end, right before the question time, I'll save some time to get to see your drawings and talk about like what went right or what you might want to change. So with that, a wetland is a swamp, marsh, or bog. A wetland is covered in water and has a habitat for animals to live. The wetlands I'm starting to fix up to make work better was a really dry area where there wasn't very much vegetation growing. So with that, the dry, rocky area was not very good for animals to live in, different species like that. So I'm going to share my screen and show you my presentation board that I was working on. All right. Alrighty, so with this is my presentation layout board. It's called, my project title was Willow at Work, because I was using willows to help kind of restore the wetlands. So my question behind this whole project is, what is the success rate of planting willows in a wetland? So my hypothesis with this project is that if 80% of the willows survive, then the soil will be able to support a wetland and be able to start cleaning the soil and water to be able to make it work better. So here I have a picture of the planting site that I was going to use. It was about mid-November when I went up to find this location. Hold on, let me get a better mouse so you can see. But yeah, so this picture up here is the plant site. It was all covered in snow back then in like mid-December. Yeah, and here, if we can zoom in more, here is like the picture of what the soil looked like. So as you can see, it was pretty rocky and there wasn't very much growing. So then what I did was I went and cut willows that were near the spot where I was going to be helping to restore. So up here in this picture, they were just kind of off to the side over here. And that really helps with having the willows at that higher elevation where I'm going to be planting. They're already adapted and adjusted to that location. So with that, I transported the willows back and soaked them in water for the water to like help kind of restore them and get them kind of ready to be growing. And then I planted in the dormant season of the willows, which is here. I planted 3 different transects, each with different amounts of willows in them. And that was just because when we went to plant, the part of the ground was really frozen, and there was just a lot of rocky areas. So we just kind of had to work around the rocks to get the willows in. So yeah, that's what I did there. And then I went up and checked on the willows a couple weeks ago, and it was still pretty frozen up there and the willows were still dormant. So yeah, I didn't really get to that, like looking to see how many survived or if that has helped with more vegetation to show up. So that's what I'm hoping to do to finish up my project. So yep, I'm hoping to do that again, maybe next year or some other time. Alrighty, so that's all I have for my project. Yeah, so I'd like to see your guys' photos now of wetlands that you were drawing and see if they're kind of similar to some of the things that I was talking about. Yep, I see yours, Amanda. Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, those all look really good. Cool. Nice. Yep. So a lot of those, that's what I'm hoping to get my wetland area to look like with it being restored, where I saw a lot of vegetation and different plants growing in the streams of the water. Yeah, and some animals. So yep, that's what I'm really hoping to do with this project. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
I kind of have the same question as I did for Royce, but like, did you go into ASCI like thinking you wanted to do a project like this, or like what inspired you?
So yeah, kind of going into this, I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know what I want to do kind of thing. But I talked to some people in Silverton, and we all kind of came to this conclusion of, hey, there's this spot over here that was on a mining placer that there's been a lot of minerals in the soil and nothing was really growing there. And it was kind of in the middle of a wetland. So there was like wetland growing all around it, but in the middle of this one spot, there just wasn't anything growing. So I just thought that would be a cool project to do, as outdoors and like a hands-on project where I'd get to use the willows and put them in the ground, and then hopefully try to restore an area to have it be better for everyone up there, and like different animals and different species of plants, and just kind of to have that area fit in with the rest of the wetlands around it.
Awesome.
All right.
Nadine, I have a question.
Yes.
Are there other wetland areas where this like type of restoration has worked?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. Yeah, so this type of restoration has happened kind of all over at different places. There was one in particular that I learned about that was down by Navajo, that people were restoring that land down there. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure there was some other areas where that worked. Yeah, so I'm just hoping that that'll work up there, and then yeah, if not, then I'll plant more willows to kind of see what I can do to make it work out better.
That is great, Nadine. I really appreciate seeing this project come together. I really loved your creative title, Willow at Work. I really like that. And thanks for the interactive component. That was really fun. I'm gonna do a little applause here using my reaction tools. Thank you so much. I think we're ready to move to the next.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Well done, Nadine. Next up, we have, looks like a group of 4, Charis, Elias, Daniela. Are there, oh, no, Elias is in here twice. Looks like maybe just group 3. Are you guys ready? Are they in here?
I don't see them in here, actually. One moment, let me check. Yeah, I think they might not be here. I'm not sure what happened with that. Here, one moment. Let me check on the updated agenda because I know we did have. Yeah, they were still on our.
Is it possible they're in the other? Is it possible they're in the other breakout room?
I'll go check. Why don't we move to Autumn's presentation, and then I'll check on it and get back with you guys. Okay.
All right. So we actually have Autumn Schulz up. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, on how to make a home more fire resistant.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Autumn Schulz and I'm going to be creating a fire resistant home. So in your life, homes are one of the things you remember for the longest time. It's where you make most of your memories, where you grow up, where you will end up. And they also cost a lot of money. You spend multiple years making sure no. Okay. Anyway, you will spend multiple years and multiple salaries saving up to buy your home. And in a place like Colorado, where there's the possibility it might burn down, that will be catastrophic to the fact of now you have to save up to buy a new home. You don't have anywhere to live. If you don't have relatives near you, where are you going to go? Okay, so why? Many wonder why you should invest in something like this. And like I said, someone will once you buy your like dream home, the one you love with every fiber of your being, this is where you want to live. This is where you feel like, this is where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. If a wildfire were to come and light up your house, where are you going to go? But making sure your house can making sure your house, you only cut maybe you'll have to replace a couple windows or your shingles on your roof, rather than having to replace your whole home, because that will cost you a lot of money. So this code, IWUIC, in this, it provides, you need irrigation, and you need to make sure where you're building, they know what's going to happen. How bad is it going to be if a fire breaks out there? Is your house going to light up in an instant? Is your house going to be okay? Maybe the fire will just zoom by, maybe only roast your outer walls, or will it stay there and burn your entire house to a crisp? NFPA 114. This was a adopted standard, and it can actually be turned into a code if that is what you want. This feature is linking your building, where you are. This can stand for a home, a business. Heck, probably even a gas station can adopt this code. But your vegetation, do you want trees near your house? No, those are going to light on fire. Then your house will catch on fire. You no longer have a house. And with this, your design for your home, your workplace, whatever you're building has to be passed. And you also have to explain to them what vegetation you're going to be putting around it. That way they can know and be like, oh no, you can't put that there. That's going to make it easier for the fire to ruin your building. And that's the last thing we want, because it costs a lot of money.
Autumn, just so you're aware, you're just about out of presentation time.
Okay. I'm sorry, I talk really slow. Landscaping.
You're good.
Okay, with landscaping, it's pretty simple. In a 30-foot radius, you don't want any trees or anything, because that will block the fire department being able to fight the flame. With that, in a 4-foot radius, they recommend hardscaping with like gravel and stone. After that, if you could put low foundation shrubs, like, I'm afraid I'm going to pronounce these wrong, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Azelas. They recommend, this is one of the ones they would recommend planting near your house. Next, costs. This is the cost for a normal home. Roof, exterior walls, deck, landscaping, your total cost. Look how much it would cost you to build a normal home. A fire-resistant home. Your roof, your exterior wall, your deck, your landscaping, your total cost, it's less. And you're still making your home safe. Here is a graph. Because some people need pictures. I'm one of those people. And this cellulose installation, this was one of the best insulations they recommend in your house because hot air and fire can't really burn through it. That's what it looks like. No, just making sure we all know what it looks like. And here are my sources. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. Forgot how to do that. There we go. Stop screen. So I'm open for any questions.
This is kind of ironic, but
I heard you.
last year, my house actually did burn down. And so I was just curious what gave you inspiration for choosing this project.
My inspiration for this project is as I grow up, I'm becoming a penny pincher. I do not like spending unnecessary money or like the waste of money is just like adding up in my head. So if I can build my home, make sure it is safe, make sure it will withstand disasters and not have to buy another one, I'm perfectly happy. Because now my house is safe, I can save up for other important things. So.
Any other last minute questions? All right, Amanda, did we ever get that other group to join this room? Do you know what's going on with that?
I checked the other breakout room and I don't see them. So I think what that means, since they didn't make it.
Brian's here.
Oh, Brian's
Hey,
here?
Amanda. Yeah, Brian is here, but I was expecting Daniela and Charis, so he's gonna stand in for them and basically show the slides they were going to share.
Perfect.
I'm sorry to be so late on that.
No problem. We're glad to have you, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead. Do you want to share your screen?
Sure. How you?
So,
Thank you.
take the slides
Sure.
and then come here and present.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Right before we get started, we didn't have a chance. I just want to say thank you so much for that presentation. And I want to give a clap on my reaction tool. And thank you so much for sharing that with us and great work. I'm glad to see all your hard work. All right. We can move to the next presentation then. Thank you.
All right, that's you.
Okay. This is the presentation that me and my friends made for the Durango against climate change and stuff. And like this is the thesis, like we want the people of Durango to use strategies that helps our environment, which will results in a clear environment, preventing the danger of wildlife, wildfire, and the help of animals to survive in the wild. And the risks, the climate change poses a fundamental threat to places and species, and work to protect the accurately address the crisis. We must urgently reduce carbon pollution and prepare for the consequences of the global warming. The climate change pose fundamental. I think I read that already. That's the second one. Streets, the places of species and people live with hoods. The WWF works to protect the quality to accurately address the increases. We must urgently reduce carbon pollution and prepare for the consequence of the global warming. And the risk for our forests are important to us because they protect the plant by absorbing carbon dioxide and CO2, a major source of pollution that causes climate change. And animals' health may be affected by the climate change in 4 ways: heat, related disease, and stress, extremely weather events, adaptation of animals' production system to new environments, and emergence or emergencies of infectious disease, especially vector-borne disease. Closely depends on environments and climate conditions. Why we need to stop using plastic straws and start using paper straws? The reason why we need to stop using plastic straw is because when we use a straw and throw it, the straws last 100 years to die, and most ends up in the ocean. And since the most of them remain in the ocean, some animals eat it and eventually dies. How long do paper straws last? Break down. If I can put this. Paper breakdown in 2 to 6 weeks. Or use metal straws or no straw. Bamboo bushes. Why people people need to stop using plastic toothbrushes and start using toothbrushes to help our environment and community? I think that's all. That's all.
All right, thank you so much.
Probably.
Anyone have any questions?
Why did you decide to choose that topic?
Because we were like worried about like how the things were like going around like in our environment, like seeing trash everywhere mostly, and people just throwing stuff away on the ground and not picking it up. And that's why we chose this topic and to help like the environment and stuff in our community.